Anybody have that?
Didn't mean to disrupt you there, Chris. We had to get the recording started.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
But is anybody comfortable enough to share here? Here's my biggest takeaway from that.
I can tell you, I wasn't in that particular session, but I was in your last session. And one of the biggest takeaways I took away from that was that busyness is not business. And for me, I'm here because I have had a small solo practitioner PR firm doing local outreach for the last decade. And since COVID came out, the primary agency that I've done work for has released 2 contracts similar to my work that have both gone to somebody I would no longer work for. I'm feeling like I'm starting from zero again. And so I'm back to school, trying to figure out a way to do this where it's not just busyness, where I feel like what I'm doing is productive to build a new customer base.
Yeah. And that's that's a harder thing. And I don't want to get too off topic on that because I want to move us on the progression because it feels like I could get on a tangent with this. But it is a really hard thing in business because we feel like, hey, I returned some emails. I returned the calls. I had 4 meetings. So you feel really like, wow, I got a lot done. And you really didn't. Because when it's your business, those metrics don't matter, right? I could work 2 hours or 20 hours. But how do I know I'm moving forward? How do I know that I'm really growing? How do I, that becomes a lot harder than it does look like at first sight. It's not like when we worked for somebody else and we traded time for dollars. That is very different. When you own your own business, it's like, wow, okay, it really does not matter my hours. My gift is not my number of hours. It is my gift. Like that's the value, right? The value is in my gift. So when you think about branding and capabilities and all that stuff, what's the thing that you do better? Or you think about the group that we've come together here, right? You guys have all come together. Why is the world a better place? Because we came into each other's lives. And we should have a powerful answer to that. We should have a meaningful answer to that. Versus what we tend to do is tell you about my years of experience or my background. And that becomes a little bit noise after a while. You lose me after about, a few seconds, right? Like, well, I've done this and then I did this and then I worked here and then I worked there and then I worked there. It's like, okay, yeah. We would do well to remember that when we're talking to somebody, if you're the average person, 49% of the time they're thinking about something else. So we tend to, we create a lot of noise versus here is why the world is a better place because of what I do. And here's how I can help you. And here's why you should choose me. Or what I like to sort of think about, I like that word remarkable. And when I think about branding, I sometimes think about that word remarkable. What is remarkable about you? Meaning, what's the thing that I'll remark about after meeting you? Because I won't say the same things that you're going to say, and I'm probably not going to say the same thing that your website says. What would I really say? You know what makes her great? It's this. You know what stands out to me? You know what I was impressed by when I met her? It was this. And that's the thing we should manage to, the remarkable, worthy of making a remark about. And the more we have to, there's that phrase that Seth Godin coined, which actually, I don't think he originally coined it, but it was in one of his books. Advertising is a tax paid by the unremarkable. Because if you were truly remarkable, right, you have one person telling 10 people about you, and those 10 go out and tell another 10. And so what is the thing that we want people to say about us, that thing that is memorable, that thing that is portable, meaning I can take it with me and talk about you to all the people that I know. So that becomes a hard thing when we think about when we think about branding and capability statements and that kind of thing. Those are some of the thoughts that I think about. because none of us have this ability to hire more salespeople than our competitors. I don't think that we could just keep hiring sales. So what we have to do is everybody I meet has to become a voluntary salesperson for me. Well, the only way I'm going to do that if I'm impressed by you, I'm wanting to make a remark about, you're giving me something memorable about you, something portable that I can take with me. And so that when it comes up, it's like, oh, you know what? I know who you should call. Call Paula. Like, cool. Okay. Why should I call Paula? Well, here's why. So I guess just digging that further, and then I'll get back to sort of like the general sort of growth concept. But since Paula, since you were nice enough to sort of volunteer to share, and I'll certainly take anybody else who wants to share, but what is remarkable about you? Like if you gave me one sentence that says, here's what's remarkable about me, what would that be?
I have a real heart for inclusion. I do public outreach. I've got in-depth understanding of my industry, which is water and sewer utilities. And I also worked in safety and risk management. So I help my clients by helping them be aware of both policy and liability issues. So not only am I building these relationships for them in the community, but I'm also watching out for their interests.
So what would you want me to, what's memorable and portable for me to take with me so that I can share that with other people? Because I probably couldn't say all that or remember all of that. So what would I say?
She really can connect with people and she'll be watching your back.
Okay. So see, and you did a good job, and I know I'm putting you on the spot. So you're like, hey, well, I'm so glad I volunteered to go first. Now he's going to pick on me the whole time. Because here you are being nice enough to have your camera on, being fully present, and now I'm picking on you. That doesn't seem fair.
I was the kid in the front row like this all the time going to school, so I'm fine.
Yeah. And professors love the front row kids. In fact, as statistics show, that's what I tell college students. You want to guaranteed increase in GPA, one of the things you do, always sit in the front row. Guaranteed will increase your GPA. So anyway, that's a side note. If you said something like, you said, watch your back, like, hey, you know why you should call Paula? There's nobody in this industry that you can connect with that's going to watch your back more than her. That's going to stay with me more than, industry experience, because those are certain things that we call permission to play, right? If you've been in your industry for a certain period of time, I expect you to know your industry, right? Yeah. I expect those kinds of, there's certain things I expect, like, well, I'm going to be honest. Well, I probably wouldn't hire you if I thought you were going to be dishonest. Those are like permission to play. I'm just assuming that you're going to do what you said you were going to do. So there's certain things that we tend to brag about as business owners that are really in most people's minds, in the eyes of the customers, like, yeah, well, I'm not impressed by that. Versus coming up with the thing that's remarkable that people could be impressed by, that they could take with them and share. Like, hey, you know what? This woman, she watches your back. And I've never worked with somebody where I felt that before. And that's pretty cool. Can you imagine somebody saying, that's the remark I want them to make? Okay, cool. Then that's the story that I'm going to share.
Yeah, and I do it. I have, contractors who said, I don't know what I'd do without you, and that kind of thing is just very affirming as a business owner and in my profession. Yeah.
And that's a gift, right? To give to somebody. And that's a gift worthy of compensation, of value, right? You say, okay, well, wow, that's a story that I would like to buy, because what am I really buying when I purchase a service or a product? There's the thing, and then there's the real thing, and what is it? Like the traditional example in case studies for this is when this was first this concept in business was first explored. It was Revlon that really seemed to nail this well. And because at the time, this is an old case study, but if you go up to the executives of Revlon and you said, hey, what business are you in? Well, most people think that's a dumb question. Revlon's in the business of cosmetics. It's like, well, not according to their executives. They're in the business of selling hope. Hope to women to look more beautiful. Hope to women to look more young. It was hope. Cosmetics just happened to be the way in which they delivered the thing that they really sold. Now, whether or not you agree or disagree with that, if you really believe that I was in the business of selling hope, that affects everything. It affects how I price my product. It affects how I package my product. It affects who sells my product and what they wear when they sell my product. So what is the thing that I'm really going to do? And so if you really are going to take that further, says, you know, I'm going to get in the business of, I'm going to provide that feeling to them. I'm going to really do that. Okay, that's going to affect how you onboard me as a client, or how you interact with me while we're doing the discovery process, whatever it is. So anyway, so good. So no, I definitely appreciate you sort of sharing that, and hopefully for some of the others on this call, that you're getting some kind of way that could maybe add on to what you already learned in that first session about branding, about capability. That those kinds of things are so important, because it is not what you say about what you do. It's what I say about you, what you do, what I believe about what you do. Because I'm the one if I'm the customer, I'm the one with the money. I'm the one deciding whether or not to use you or to use 3 other people. And so what's different about you? And we can see our differences, or at least we believe that, hey, I'm different. I'm better than all those competitors. Well, on paper, I don't see it. On paper, you're a commodity to me. You're interchangeable with somebody else. So what you say about you and how you do it, that shifts like out of commodity. Commodities are only distinguishable by price. Are you cheaper than X? Because I see you as being equal, and all things being equal, I choose the cheapest price. Versus no, I'm the best at what I do. Best doesn't mean I'm not necessarily the most expensive. I may not be the most expensive, but I'm the best at what I do in this way. I'm the best at what I do because of this. So anyway. So this is a series sort of designed to help you grow your business. And that's one thing I feel like we can offer, is we can help you grow better than any other place. So if there's like a memorable and portable thing about this series, I would argue that there's no place you can go to that's going to help that do growth better than this. And we're going to be able to grow between all of the stuff we know about how fast growth businesses work, and all the stuff that we collectively know about doing business with either the state, local, or federal government. That combined information and access. There's not a place you're going to find more of that. So in keeping with that theme of growth, I guess one question I want to throw out there, at least maybe a thing to think about. I was trying to think, okay, how do I give you a takeaway that's brief but compelling? Last time I led it, and I was trying to take you through a form that I use to help people identify when, and then here's the key things and all that stuff. And we hit it very superficially, but a tool like that can really, really help because we got to get out of one of the problems we all struggle with, I believe, as business owners, is we all live in the land of someday. Someday I'm going to have more employees. Someday I'm not going to be working as many hours as I'm working. Someday it'll get easier. Someday I'll be huge. Okay, I don't want someday. I want to turn that someday into here's the day. The day is going to be this day. So what are the things I need to do to get to that day so that I started achieving all the reasons I became an entrepreneur, to get the time, the money, and the significance that I was hoping to get. So that was sort of last time. This time I was thinking about this concept, and this may be a little bit of a different concept for some folks. But I think that there are times in your life where there is a moment where you have to make a big decision that leads to let me rephrase that. I don't think they are always big decisions. Sometimes there's little decisions that lead to big breakthroughs, but they feel scary in the moment. The decision to attend all of these sessions is a big decision that could lead to a big breakthrough. And maybe it's, or arguably it's a little decision to go through these sessions. You know, I don't know if you consider it a big or a little decision, but the point is coming together and you know, what's hard about this, and I know some people are struggling with this right now, probably trying to sort of attend the session and do other things, because sessions like this don't feel productive. They don't feel efficient. It's more efficient for me to answer those emails and answer those texts and get things done. And you feel like you can outwork, and your hard work is going to get you to where you want to go. But I will tell you that hard thinking beats hard work. Every single, when you're growing a business, hard thinking beats hard work. If I come together for an hour with people, or maybe let's just say a full day, like tomorrow I'm spending a full day with CEOs in Atlanta. And I'm already getting some people saying, dude, I'm so sorry, I can't make it, man. I got this thing going on. I know, and I get that every time. You know, there's going to be some people who don't show up at the last minute. But I meet with the same set of groups, people, a full day once a month, and I've been doing that for a long time. But it's not going to feel efficient, but if we spend a day, an hour wrestling with the toughest issues that are holding you back, and let's say that we came up with a better strategy than you have now, that is way, way better than you, hey, I got my email inbox cleaned. I returned that call. I stomped out this fire. These are the things that keep us from being, you know, like we're moving from the doer of the thing that we do to the owner of the thing that we do. And it is through thinking that we do that. So I would argue that if you want to grow, things like this become super, super important because growth cannot be manufactured. It can only be nurtured and developed. And so there's not a magic to it where you're like, you know what, okay, there's, you know, you do these 3 things and you attend these 4 sessions, growth is guaranteed. No. But we come together, we wrestle with the toughest issues, we strip years off of our learning curve from learning from the combined intelligence and the combined expertise, and then we get farther faster. So, this idea of coming up with that breakthrough, like what's the breakthrough that I can get? And if I come back next week, what's the thing that I can grab that I can actually apply to my business? Too many times there's no shortage of information on entrepreneurship. You can take all of Stanford's entrepreneurship program online for free. And I would ask the question, how will that help you? What's the thing that you're going to take from that to apply? You know, one of the reasons I wanted to start off with that question, what did you get from last time? Because if we don't actually apply what we've learned, then nothing changes. It's not information that changes us. Information doesn't get us to where we need to go. It's transformation. It's allowing the information to take hold and to change me and to change my business. And so what is the thing that we're going to apply? And sometimes in our journey for growth, there are these moments that are really, really scary. And we're going to have to make uncomfortable decisions because the problem with growth is it always occurs outside of your comfort zone. It's never in your comfort zone because you never ran like if you're doing a 1 million in sales, well, you've never run a $2 million in sales business. And then if you run 2 million in sales, you never knew what it's like to run a $5 million organization. And growth always occurs way outside my comfort zone. And so I have to get really comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the place that I live. And there's moments that feel even really scarier. And so I call them the trapeze moments, those trapeze moments, like where I have to like really let go of one trapeze and I'm gonna catch that other trapeze. And it's that moment of wow, I've got to let go of the past and I'm going to grab onto this new future. And boy, oh boy, it feels a little bit scary. And you're right. And what if I missed? And what if I fell? Yeah, you could fall. but there's no way for me to move from one trapeze to the next trapeze without letting go. And just sometimes we have to let go of the past so that we can create the new. And so this idea of moving towards it, because growth takes courage, growth takes guts, growth is hard. That's why most companies don't do it. You know, they will grow to the point that of their comfort zone. They will grow to the point where, hey, you know what? Well, I like being the doer of the things, and I'm not comfortable hiring other people to do it, scaling my business, thinking about things like ERPs and CRMs. That's too much for me. I'm going to go back to where it was comfortable. I liked when I used to know all my employees' names. I liked when I used to know all my customers' names. And I want to go back to that point. I don't want to grow beyond that. Or I don't like to look stupid because there's certain things about this larger organization that I'm trying to build that I just don't know. And I don't feel comfortable not knowing. And I don't feel comfortable saying I need help. So if you want to stay comfortable, you're not going to grow. Growth and comfort do not, that's mutually exclusive concepts. So you have to really choose, am I going to grow or am I going to stay safe and comfortable? You know, or the cliche, since that's safe, I was reminded of that poster that you used to see a lot where, you know, you can't steal second with your foot on first, right? I can still stay safe on first base, but I sure am not going to get to second base without taking that foot off, right? So, you know, and another way I look at it, like, because I don't feel like I can ever fully conquer my fear. And I can't fully conquer my insecurities. But the way I feel like I can live in fear, or I can grow to the point where I show up differently to the things I used to fear. Because I'll never fully overcome them. So I'll grow to the point where I'm no longer afraid. I think that's a little unrealistic. But I can grow to the point at least where I'll show up differently to the things that I fear. Like I'm still afraid, but I'm showing up differently now. And I'm approaching it differently, and I'm interpreting it differently, because fear can be a good thing. We think about fear as a horrible thing. It's always there. It's a very human thing. It's a very human thing. Hey, I'm afraid of getting up on stage and speaking. Well, yeah, I get that. I feel that fear too. Yeah, I'm afraid of making this cold call. I'm afraid of, yeah, I know, me too, right? And there was that person, I can't remember her name. I think is it Elizabeth Gilbert who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, or whatever. But anyway, she has a TED Talk where I thought she did a great analogy. And she basically said something like, fear will always be in the passenger seat, but I will never give it the steering wheel. Meaning it's always there. And sometimes it tries to reach over and grabs the steering wheel, but she's got to get comfortable just having fear being a passenger in her life, but not the driver of her life. And I thought that was a really good visual. I like that a lot. You know, this idea of not letting fear sort of take total control about in disrupting the growth and the journey that I'm going on. So I always thought that was kind of a neat analogy. And I think it's a good reminder that, look, it's okay for me to be afraid. Fear can be a good thing. It's a very natural thing. That's why we have it, right? There's some things I should be afraid of. But what I'm trying to learn myself, and I'm trying to start to teach to others, is we should fear the probable, not the possible. And what I mean by that is it is very, very possible that you could die in an airplane crash. That is absolutely possible for every one of us. But should that impact me getting on an airplane and going to see the world, or going on this business trip, or going to this conference? That should not keep me from doing that. Is it possible? Yes. But is it probable? No. But if my house was burning, I should run out very quickly, and I should run out of the house, because it is very probable that if I stayed inside, I could die. So when I'm struggling with fear, it's like, okay, is this a probable thing or is it a possible thing? And I want to stay afraid of the probable and learn from that and be wise from that. Hey, it is probable that if I do this, that it's going to have an adverse consequence. Okay, then I'm not going to do it. But if it's just in the realm of possibility, I don't want that. Hey, hey, if you invest in the growth of your business, it's possible that the industry could change or your competitor could outflank you. Yeah, I know, it's possible, but I don't think it's too probable, so I'm going to do that. So anyway, I don't know if that helps you guys deal with this whole thing of fear, because here's what I believe very, very strongly, and maybe I'll sort of hold up on this before I get too preachy, and then just take questions for the rest of this. But here's what I know. And I've been doing this entrepreneurship thing for a long time, and you're not going to meet anybody who's more nerdy about this entrepreneurship or is around. We have the largest collection of information on entrepreneurship that exists. So there's nobody that has access to more information on it. I know that it is usually the things like fear, the things like insecurity. It is the people stuff that keeps us from being successful more so than the business stuff. I didn't know if I should do an S or an LLC. Come on. All right. That we can Google real quick, or we can fix that. But we all have to have, like, if I could increase your self-worth, I know I can increase your net worth. It is more of a thing inside of me. Entrepreneurship is an inside job, no doubt in my mind. When people say, no, it's an outside job, and there's the business model canvas, there's the lean startup method, it's like, shut up. The reason I'm not as far along as I'd like to be is all internal. I can point to COVID, I can point to whatever, but it is me. The biggest battle any entrepreneur fights is the one in the mirror. That is my barrier to growth. It is me. I'm the bottleneck, as Peter Drucker once said. Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Your doubt in, I don't know if I could grow. I don't know if I should go for this contract. I don't know if I should invest in this. It's your doubt that kills your dreams, not failure. So anyway, all right, with that, I'll sort of shut up and take any questions that you guys have. So does anybody have any questions?
The forms you shared in the last session, is there a link for those?
Mark, is there a link, or how should we get her the forms that we shared in the last session?
If you provide that to me, then I can provide it to everyone who attended.
Yeah. What I'll do is I'll make sure that Mark has it, and then it's distributed so you could have that. Now, you may have questions about that and all that, and that's fine. The next time we say, hey, what did you mean by this? Because it's a little bit, I know if you're not familiar with it, you may be a little bit odd to some. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll make sure that it gets distributed to you. So any other sort of questions about this idea of growth, or the thing that's holding you back from growth?
One question in our box here is, how do you approach no experience?
So that's a hard one to answer without context, or at least hit the right point, but I'll just share a couple of top of mind thoughts about no experience. If I don't have I guess what I'll do is maybe I'll let Mark handle from the government bid side. If I don't have any experience or haven't done any business with the government, what do I do? I'll address the sort of the general side of that. There is very little data that demonstrates a big difference between 6 months of experience and 5 years of experience. There's very little data that shows me relevance in that. And what I mean by that, and plus, I don't need to prove that to you. I was about to get all academic, but some of you know that people who have 20 years of experience, and they'll tell you they have 20 years of experience, but they really just have 1 year of experience and they just repeated it 20 times. They've been doing the same thing in the same way and they're not learning and growing. Now, there is a period where I have to sort of learn certain fundamentals and that kind of thing in an industry. But between 6 months and 5 years, there's very little difference. What's different is me. What's different is how strong I apply things, like how aggressive I am and all that stuff. So I can have a lot less years in an industry and I could still outperform my competitors because I understand that. Experience can be like I can go to industry experts, I can listen to podcasts, I can strip years off of my learning curve from learning from others. I'm a big fan of copying from others. So hey, the person who has 10 years of experience and I don't, I'm going to come up with, I've got 30 questions and I'm going to ask them. And I'm going to pull everything I can from them. That's why I've never been afraid to enter industries that I didn't have a lot of experience with, because I feel like I can ask the questions. And sometimes that's an advantage because I'm stupid enough to ask the obvious questions. Like I asked this to a software company just very recently. I said, why do you guys charge for training? I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me. And they said, well, we all do that and all our competitors do that. I said, yeah, so you're penalizing your customers for buying your product by only training them if they pay you. They said, well, we never thought about it like that. That seems pretty wise. So they stopped charging for training, and that's been a big boost for them. But see, I'm just dumb enough because I don't have the experience, right? I can just ask the dumb questions. I can see things with fresh eyes because all of you here, because you have so much expertise in what you do, you have blind spots and you have the curse of knowledge. So you know so much that you forget what it's like to not know. Right? You forgot what it's like to not know and to look at the industry or look at the problem that you solve from completely fresh eyes. You've forgotten how to do that and you'll never get that back because you have the curse of knowledge. So I think no experience could be something great. And I could use that to my advantage because like a lot of experience is good. It's also bad. Little experience is good. It's also bad. So I'm going to maximize my advantages and I'm going to minimize my disadvantages. So anyway, there's a lot more thoughts I have about experience, but I felt like that was going on a little bit long. But for those who want to debate that, I'll just close the point with this and then I'll turn it over to Mark. But for those who want to debate this whole years of experience thing that I started off with, then let me ask you the question, how's your handwriting? Is your handwriting this year better than it was last year? Because you have an additional year of experience doing it. And I would bet that none of our handwriting is improved because we have an additional year of experience. Experience does not make us better. It is evaluated experience that does. The hard thinking, like, hey, what did I learn last year that I'm never going to do again? What did I learn last year that I got to keep repeating? What is that? That's the thing that makes us better. Not just, hey, I've been doing it longer. I've been incorporated longer. So. Mark,
I can't add much to that, Chris, because you covered it very well, I think. But in terms of government contracting, whenever I read that question, give me your experience. What they're asking you is, can you perform the job? And that's what they're really looking for you. So you're an entrepreneur. They're going to expect that you're not going to have a lot of past performance under your company name, perhaps, but you've done it somewhere. Otherwise, you wouldn't have started your business. You're not going to bid on a contract unless you can actually perform the work. I mean, for example, if I was if there was an equipment mechanic RFP out, I would not respond to that because I literally have no experience, and I'm not ever going to win it. So that's not ever good. I'm not going to be able to win that contract. But if I'm brand new in a field of compensation studies and I have a brand new company, I've done this for 20 years, 30 years perhaps. And so I'll be able to share that with them. So that contracting officers really, their primary concern is, are you able to do the work? And are you going to embarrass me if I hire you? So you need to sell that. So don't ever leave that question blank but sell it the way the way you thought whenever you were forming your company. Why did you go and decide to start your company and bid on government contracts? And it's because you're an expert in what you're potentially trying to do. So that's what so we have another question is also, how essential is having a mentor or mentors to be successful?
So again, everything is, I always like to try to peel back layers, so I should just answer it simply. It's certainly important, right? You cannot get to where you want to go by yourself. If you can, then your dreams are too small. And so obviously I need good mentors. I need good people around me. Now, just by having a mentor, does that make me better? I don't know. Who's your mentor? How often are you meeting? What are you learning? Because sometimes people substitute mentor for just, hey, I do lunch with this dude once a month. Cool. But are you growing from it? Is it changing you? Are you, like, so to me, it kind of depends. Just because you have one, I don't know if that means it's good. But in general, do I need mentors? Do I need wisdom? Do I need experts? For sure. This game is too hard. You guys have all chosen to do the toughest thing in business. This is the hardest job. Owning a fast-growing business, there's nothing harder. There's nothing harder to go from startup to grow up. To go from nothing to something, from something to something better. That is the hardest job that exists in business. And we've all signed up for it. So I need good people around me. And I say, what did you do? How did you get there? Okay, you run a $10 million organization, and I'm not there yet. What should I do? What did you do when you felt this? What did you do about this? That I'm a big fan of that. I love getting groups of people together, and we stay in community, and we help each other get, solve our toughest issues, and grow as leaders, grow as people, grow as businesses. So yeah, I would definitely say get a mentor, but I would make it into a mentor, not like this is a dude that I just meet for coffee with. Like, that's nice, but am I really growing, or is that just one of those things like we start off with Paula that makes you feel like you're busy, but you're not necessarily allowing it to grow your business? Because sometimes it's a lot easier to meet people for coffee than it is to, do the uncomfortable stuff that we don't necessarily like.
And another more specific question for this session is how important is to have a relationship? Is the sort of the general comment, but then with a contract officer or the agency or the client to which you're submitting a proposal, and how do you know if the RFP is rigged? How the relationship is rigged? That's always a concern.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mark, you're gonna have way more insight on that I do. How do you know if it's rigged? Or
you don't get the contract. That's right.
There you go. That's the reason you didn't get the contract. Yeah. Anytime you got to know, it's because it's been rigged.
Well, I can help with this one a little bit, but it really, you can always brand yourself, and branding and marketing, and which we talked about last week, is important, and always making sure a government knows who you are, going to the industry days, going to any kind of more traditional business development and growing your company. But whenever it comes to that point where they actually they have an RFP on the street and you're responding to that, it is a competitive situation there. Now, there may be someone who has the lead in that process. I mean, just this week we were putting together a response to an RFP, and we could have went into it thinking, I'm never going to get this. It's not worth my time. And there does seem potentially to be someone who's got a lead on that project, but we didn't approach it that way. We approached it as they're in the marketplace, they're looking for a competitive proposal, and we're going to sell ourselves. And I'm not going to worry 1 ounce of time about that other potential competition. I'm there to sell our service and sell our product, and that's going to be the winning strategy long term. If that's assuming that RFP is on the street and that they haven't already designated as a sole source. I'm a firm believer that contracting officers are always looking for competitive proposals when they issue that RFP, and they're governing decision-making boards are looking for that. They want to see competition, so you've got a shot with that. You know, sometimes you might see an RFP that have very rigid specifications about a product, and if you see that and you know it is a competitor of yours, or some sort of, maybe there's a requirement that you know you simply can't meet because that's proprietary to another system, you know, I would call that out and say, you're asking for this, and this leads to a situation that it potentially is a sole source, or you're going to throw out everyone as being responsible because they can't meet that. Here is the alternative. This is why you also need to consider another way of approaching that product or service. So have that information ready to go. You know, at the end of the day, I know it's always a common belief that things are rigged in government contracting. I just don't find that to be the case. And projects I win, or some projects I lose, it's usually making sure it's a good fit for your company, as opposed to you know, just making sure it's a good fit all around. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah. More questions? Any more comments today, Chris?
Let's see. Well, I guess maybe I'll just leave you like if I'm looking for sort of a concept to wrap this up, because I'm trying to think of what's something that's applicable for you that would help you, but yet still talk general enough so it applies to everybody. And so here's another analogy. I gave you guys the trapeze analogy, but here's another one. I'm guessing that everybody on this call has blown up a balloon before. And you're going to grow this balloon, right? It's a little tiny flat thing. It's still a tiny thing, and you're going to grow it into this great big thing. The first couple of breaths are really hard. But then you know what happens? Starts getting easier over time to blow that up. So I just wanted to share that, because when I know some of you, and given the tone of some of these questions too, I'm assuming that there's people on call that are feeling the pressure and the challenge of growing, and it feels overwhelming. But it does get easier, and it does get a little bit more fun than, you know, when you first get the balloon, right? It's when you first get it, it's tough and it's not fun, you know. So anyway, I thought the balloon analogy would work, and I was a little worried about that analogy, because I thought, well, you're saying it takes a lot of hot air to grow a business, and that's not the takeaway at all from that. But I was thinking about the difficulty in blowing that thing up. Most of the difficulty is on the front end, and then if I do that, then I've got a lot of momentum that carries me through. And I think in a similar way, that can be that may apply to your business.
So I'll close with this last question here, and that is, so how many balloons do you have to blow up before you can tie one off?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? That is the question that we should all wrestle with until next week. That's what we should all come up with, that answer.
I think you're right there, Chris. So just as a reminder, next week, actually tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we'll be talking about teaming. And there's been a number of questions here about subcontracting and going together with others. So I think try to attend that meeting, that session tomorrow with Danielle. She is an expert in teaming, and her sessions are always well attended. So that's the questions for today. If there's any more final questions before we sign off, we certainly appreciate you spending 50 minutes with us today. I am actually going to stop this recording.